LeBron had a press conference yesterday. When LeBron speaks, the world listens. He had a lot of stuff to say.
The best thing about it is that the year I'll be a free agent will be the same year my oldest son graduates high school. So I'll have some options to see. For me personally, what I want to do forward, be around my family, being around my son more.
There has been a lot of speculation over what LeBron James's future is going to look like. Not only whether or not he's going to stay with the Los Angeles Lakers once his contract expires, which by the way we will touch on in this video, but also what are his offspring's futures going to look like? I mean, it's no surprise, LeBron James has been really trying to groom Bronny James to be able to succeed him at the NBA level, and whether or not he's going to be able to live up to that remains to be seen. But there has been recent footage of his son absolutely terrorizing other opponents and growing to the size of 6'5". He's only 15 years old. We're not talking about Bronny James either. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. If you want to get shorter versions of this content, make sure you follow me on TikTok and Instagram at TheFlightMike for both. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. It's your lucky day. I'm gonna make you a drink. I don't know if you deserve it, but we're sponsored by Shaker and Spoon, and as a result, you're gonna have a drink made for you. Are you excited?
I mean, you came and said, I'm gonna make you a drink, and I was like, okay, so here we are.
But you're gonna have to pass me stuff. Pass me tequila añejo. Pass me the little shot glass. What, bro? Pass me the shot glass thing. It's not that hard. Jesus.
You're in my way.
What do you mean I'm in your way? That's so hard.
Give me a drink, hurry up.
Oh, you see that? Perfect. You see, this is like my second time doing this, by the way. I'm kind of getting the feel for it. So they give us everything we need up in this box. Check this out. So the spiced mojo syrup is this bad boy over here. And like, this is just one out of many drinks that you can make from the box that they send you. And right now, when you use my promo code FLIGHT, you'll get $20 off of your first box at Shaker and Spoon, or you can go to shakerandspoon.com/flight. Can you open this, please? Or you can go to shakerandspoon.com/flight to get $20 off of your first box at checkout. We'll flip this bad boy over. Ooh, that looks pretty. Take a look at that. Yeah, it looks really nice. Look at that. It feels so professional.
I didn't know you were a bartender.
They give us an old-fashioned bitters blend over here. That, you know. All right, give me a stirring spoon. Oh, you have to give it to me straight, man. Cheers, guys. It's definitely stronger than the last one we made. It tastes pretty good.
It's sweet.
It's like sweet but strong, yeah.
I don't taste the alcohol as much, which is quite dangerous.
You smell that lemony? I love the lemon in it. So are you impressed by this drink I made for you?
I'm definitely very impressed.
If you want to impress your friends the way I just impressed my little brother with the cool cocktails that you can make from Shaker and Spoon, you can get $20 off of your first box when you use my promo code FLIGHT at shakerandspoon.com, or just go to shakerandspoon.com/flight to get $20 off of your first box. And thank you, Shaker and Spoon, for today's sponsorship. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? So LeBron James has a decision to make in regards to his future with the Los Angeles Lakers, and he was actually recently asked about this. And it's a stance that he hasn't really shifted from, but it did open up a very interesting conversation. LeBron reaffirmed his commitment to the Los Angeles Lakers. As a matter of fact, according to Mark Stein, LeBron James remains extremely happy in Los Angeles despite the Lakers' back-to-back rocky seasons. Sources tell Mark Stein Valentine of Substack. It even says in the article he remains extremely happy in Los Angeles and is unlikely to leave before 2024. So if you're a Laker fan like me, you're probably looking at this and saying, okay, we're doing great. This is pretty much a commitment from LeBron James, right? Well, if you read the fine print in this instance, Mark Stein says that the prevailing thinking in league circles holds that only the chance to play elsewhere alongside son Bronny James, who will be eligible for the 2024 draft and continues to develop as an NBA prospect, would spur LeBron to push for an LA exit, writes Stein. James is eligible for an extension on August 4th, and he has 3 options available to him. 1, play out the final season of his $44.5 million contract and become a free agent in 2023. 2, sign a 1-year extension worth $46.7 million. And 3, sign a 1+1 extension worth $97.1 million. Because James will not be subject to the over 38 rule, he cannot sign anything longer than a 2-year extension. So this is nothing new. And one of the most underrated power moves in NBA history, we're seeing LeBron James use his longevity and the fact that he's been this productive of a player to a unprecedented level. I mean, I could only really compare this to Tom Brady in the NFL. He's using his success and the incredible brand that he's built for himself as incentive for teams to potentially draft Bronny James, a player that, with all due respect, it is still relatively early, and Bronny still has yet to start playing college basketball, but based upon what we've seen so far, respectfully, I don't know if Bronny James is a lottery draft pick. Who knows? From now until the time he enters for the NBA draft, maybe things will change. But for the most part, Bronny James has been hyped up as the player to take the torch from LeBron once he enters the NBA. Yes, very unfair and incredibly unreasonable expectations to put on your son who's literally named after you. What if Bronny James isn't the one that's supposed to succeed LeBron James? What if it's supposed to be his other son, Bryce James? We haven't heard much about Bryce James so far because he's only 15 years old, but Bronny entered the spotlight during this exact period of his life, 15 to 16 years old. This is when we started watching AAU games of Bronny James. And ultimately, Bryce James is starting to go viral on the internet for a very similar reason that Bronny James was going viral for. So Bryce James just turned 15 years old last month, but he's already 6'6" with no signs that he's done growing yet. As a matter of fact, take a look at this picture comparing Bryce at the age of 15 to Bronny at the age of 17. Now, look, I'm not saying that Bronny is not going to be a successful NBA player, because 6'3" for a point guard in today's NBA is fantastic. It's honestly like prototypical, above prototypical height for a NBA point guard. But the fact that his brother is just 2 years younger and is already 3 inches taller tells you everything that you need to know, man. It seems like Bryce James got a little bit more of LeBron's DNA, at least in terms of physical structure. So here's what we know about Bryce so far. Growing up, Bryce James reportedly had some interest in football. However, if he did, his father stomped that out immediately. Only basketball, baseball, and soccer are allowed in my house, LeBron told ESPN in 2014. The reason being because LeBron felt like football was too physical and demanding for his kids, which, kudos to LeBron. You know, it's a little bit of a dangerous sport to play, especially if you're not playing the quarterback position. Typically, football is very physical and it does result in a lot of injuries later on after football. Unlike his brother, Bryce James didn't have an early growth spurt. In fact, he would remain under 6 feet tall until his final year in middle school. If you want to get an idea of what Bryce James looked like a year ago, take a look at this. This is literally what Bryce was looking like before the crazy growth spurt. So if Bryce James is LeBron James's son, Bronny James got a lot of attention growing up. I mean, we were following Bronny's story since he was like 15 years old. So why has it taken Bryce so long to finally hit mainstream media? Well, it's kind of interesting because he didn't receive as much attention when he was playing in AAU, mainly because he didn't have the height and certainly didn't have the post game that he currently has. I mean, take a look at his post game now. One skill that Bryce had since his elementary school days is his jump shot. In 2018, LeBron James even came out and said that he doesn't have the best jump shot in the family, and neither does Bronny. Bryce does. Now, look, at the same time, this is LeBron James, and he's done a decent amount of hyping up for his children. I mean, after all, he said he'd literally leave his current team to team up with Bronny James in order to help Bronny James potentially get drafted to the NBA. But if you watch some tape of Bryce, fact, his form looks amazing. His mechanics are top tier, and like any good three-point shooter, he can catch and shoot threes, as well as create his own shot off of the dribble. This tape shouldn't be the end-all be-all though, because I personally am traumatized from seeing Ben Simmons knocking down open threes in practices. So what about in-game? Well, being the son of LeBron James, it's safe to assume that Bryce James is used to being under pressure. And it's even safer to assume that being on an NBA court is probably less pressure than being chased and yelled at by an angry LeBron James. The hard truth is, it's going to be pretty difficult to truly analyze Bryce in game, since he doesn't play much in game, at least not until recently. When Bryce was 13 and in his final years of middle school, he wasn't even 6 foot, which is fine for a normal kid, but when you're LeBron James's son, it's a different story. However, once Bryce entered high school at Sierra Canyon, he grew immediately. In September of 2021, when Bryce was placed on the JV basketball team rather than the varsity squad, people were confused at first. Then, that feeling of confusion was replaced with shock as Bryce James was listed at 6 foot 3 inches on the depth chart. If you're still confused about Bryce being on the JV team, here's the simple answer. Sierra Canyon is one of the best high school basketball programs in the country, and last season even had 3 5-star recruits playing on their varsity team. Bronny is a great player. As a matter of fact, he's ranked in the top 40 depending on which rankings you look at. But even he isn't a 5-star recruit, which brings us to Bryce's biggest problem. He's a freshman. How is he supposed to get playing time? The fact that Bryce played JV last season was probably a blessing in disguise, because it's better to be playing JV basketball and at least playing games than just sitting at the end of the bench during varsity basketball. However, as the season kept progressing, people started to notice something about Bryce, something fairly odd, something that they couldn't quite lay their finger on.
Oh, the fact that he grew 3 inches in less than a year.
That's right, Bryce James was now 6 foot 6 after his freshman season of basketball. His brother Bronny is still searching for his second growth spurt, as he is just 6 foot 3. But Bryce, on the other hand, he's almost the same size as his father. This led many people to believe that maybe, just maybe, Bronny isn't the second coming of LeBron James. Bryce is. Now, this is a lofty expectation and goal for anyone, let alone a 15-year-old in high school, but I'm going to tell you why Bryce has the chance to not only be the best James kid of the bunch, but maybe why Bryce will be the best player in his recruiting class. Recently, Bryce James has been working on his newfound post game and has suited up for the Strive for Greatness AAU team. In his recent performance at Las Vegas, Bryce performed well, showcasing a new ability to box out defenders, and his three-point jumper looked as good as ever. However, he went viral for making 3 straight free throws in order to secure his team's first W of the event. In case you think Bryce was naturally born with all this talent, I hate to break it to you, but you are mistaken. Bryce and his father LeBron have been in the gym for several hours together working on post moves, step backs, fadeaways, and many more moves Bryce is keeping in his bag. By the time Bryce is done growing, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that he'll be around LeBron's height. However, let's just calm down the expectations, because he isn't as explosive as LeBron. He's not even as explosive as Bronny. Although Bryce is 6 foot 6, he seemingly doesn't have the explosiveness, fast first step, or even the passing ability that his brother does in fact possess. However, that doesn't mean Bryce won't be an NBA star. He has the length, the fundamentals, the height, an offensive game with more variety than you'd think, and his defense isn't something to sleep on either. When you consider all of this, and then remember he is a lights out three-point shooter, it becomes apparent as to why LeBron James hypes up Bryce so much. Bryce plays like his father. However, as aforementioned, he doesn't have the athletic gifts that he has. So the one question remaining is, what will Bryce develop into? Well, it's hard to say because the kid is literally 15 years old, but as of right now, he can be a starting wing, will be the main focus offensively for any Division I high school team looking to get a jump. As for the NBA, well, remember, the kid's just 15. It's really hard to just automatically picture Bryce's game in 5 years from now, or even 4 years from now, but I think he could develop into a remarkable stretch 4. Bear in mind, this is a guy that is going to enter the NBA around 2027, but overall, what's really fun about this is Bryce plays very differently from his brother Bronny. He's a better shooter, he's better in transition, he's better at attacking the rim, and has a way softer touch. Bryce James isn't unaware about his lack of athleticism compared to LeBron and Bronny, as he is focused specifically on shooting the basketball, a skill his athleticism won't be decisive in exciting. His post game is well developed, and he has shown he can shoot the mid-range fadeaway, and his shooting form is ridiculously fluid. However, with the positives also come the negatives. Although Bronny did play 6 minutes per game his freshman season on varsity, Bryce was placed on JV his freshman season. Why is that? Bronny was already ranked as a freshman compared to Bryce, who isn't even on ESPN's top 100 list. Why? Well, to tell you the truth, he simply doesn't get the playing time. You see, Bryce is playing with people that are 2 or 3 years older than him, and as a result, his coaches don't necessarily trust him, even though his father is LeBron James. Now look, this wasn't meant to be something that we need to seriously look into. I wanted to just begin the conversation on just the analysis on Bryce James. We've been doing it for Bronny, why shouldn't we do it for Bryce? I really love this because it seems like both Bronny and Bryce are going to go a completely different direction with their games in the NBA. Bronny is projected to be a point guard at the next level, whereas Bryce is probably going to turn into a stretch 4 or a wing, depending on how much he grows. And I'm assuming that's why he's already working on a post game in the event that he does grow to 6'9" or 6'10". Either way, this should be a lot of fun to keep a tab on as the years go on, with Bronny eventually hopefully entering the NBA and maybe Bryce a few years after. Let me know in the comment section down below. Which of LeBron's sons do you think are better? Are you leaning towards Bronny or Bryce? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.